Hi guys, the Eerie Ledger here. I hope you enjoy today's scary stories. People think caves are scary because of the dark, but it's not the dark that nearly killed me. It was the water, the silence, the weight of 1,000,000 tons of rock pressing down from above. It was supposed to be an adventure. My friend Marcus had gotten into cave diving the year before. He was all about the GoPro, the lights, the thrill of untouched places. He kept sending me videos, crystal blue caverns, eerie rock formations like melted chandeliers. I'd always been a good swimmer. I thought, how bad could it be? The entrance to the cave was beautiful. Sunlight pierced the water in golden beams, illuminating swirls of silt like tiny stars. We swam down, our tanks hissing steady. I remember feeling calm at first. Floating weightless in that silent blue world felt almost peaceful. But then we went deeper. The tunnels narrowed. The walls were so close my fins scraped them, sending puffs of sediment into the water that clouded everything. It was supposed to be a simple route, down through one tunnel, then up through another chimney, like shaft. Marcus had mapped it. But caves don't care about your plans. At some point we took a wrong turn. We surfaced into a small air pocket, a dome where the ceiling broke the water. We took out our regulators, gasping in that stale, humid air. Marcus checked his map, brow furrowed. We're off. Should have come up near a marker line. Must have drifted. I tried to keep my breathing steady. We still had plenty of air. But when we dipped back under, every tunnel looked the same. A twisting throat of rock, choking narrower, each branch a mirror of the last. Minutes stretched. Our bubbles rose in lazy spirals, mocking us. My gauge ticked lower. 50 bar, 40. At one point, we found another air pocket. The ceiling was so low I had to press my face against it to suck in damp, metallic-tasting breaths. I could see the panic in Marcus's eyes, mirrored in my own. Then sheer, crushing terror. The next tunnel we entered was so narrow my shoulders scraped rock. I twisted sideways, feeling it hug me too close. My tank banged against the ceiling. Silt exploded around us, turning the water to mud. I couldn't see my hand in front of my mask. I reached for Marcus, but caught only water. My regulator felt like it was sucking air out faster. 30 bar, 25. At one point, I thought I saw a light ahead. I kicked hard, lungs screaming, but it was just a trick, another chamber that dead-ended in rock. I turned, heart in my throat, and for a breathless instant, I couldn't tell which tunnel we'd come from. They all looked exactly the same. That was when I nearly lost it. My breath hitched. I took a huge pull from the regulator too fast. The bubbles roared past my ears. I slammed my palm against the roof of the tunnel, feeling for any crack where the ceiling might break the surface. Nothing, just cold, unyielding stone. Then Marcus grabbed my arm. Hard. He pointed tiny scratches in the rock. We'd carved them ourselves coming in. We kicked back, following those faint scars. I thought I would black out before we found another air pocket. When we finally broke the surface, I ripped the regulator out and sucked air so hard I nearly gagged. Marcus's face was pale, his breaths wet and ragged. Another few minutes and he didn't finish, didn't have to. We sat there for who knows how long, pressed cheek to ceiling, taking turns gulping the stale air, watching drops of condensation run like sweat down the rock. Finally, when our gauges hovered on empty, we pushed off and followed the marks we'd left behind, hoping they truly let out. When I finally saw sunlight again, my vision blurred with tears. My tank ran dry less than a minute after we surfaced. We never talked about it after. Sometimes Marcus still dives, but I can't. Even swimming pools make my chest tighten now, because I keep thinking about how easy it is to get lost down there. How quiet it is, how the walls all look the same. How there's nothing that cares if you come back up again. There's a lake about 2 hours from where I grew up. It's not particularly big or beautiful by most standards. The water's murky green-brown with floating bits of leaves and algae. There's an old dock that creaks when you walk on it, and a cluster of pines that lean so close their branches nearly kiss the surface. But it was my childhood paradise. Every summer, my family rented a tiny cabin up there. My sister and I would swim until our skin pruned, daring each other to dive for smooth stones or dead branches. At night, we'd sit on the dock with our feet dangling over, watching fireflies blink across the water. I felt safe there, like it was ours. The last time I visited, I was 23. I'd moved away for college and life got busy, but I was feeling nostalgic, craving that simple happiness. I drove up on a whim one warm afternoon, parked by the old Ranger gate that was always half broken. The place hadn't changed at all. Same crooked sign, same moss on the rocks, same gentle lapping of the lake against the shore. I stripped down to my swimsuit, laughing to myself, and waded in. The water was colder than I remembered, but refreshing, comforting. I swam out to the middle, floating on my back, letting the sun blind me through closed eyelids. Then something brushed my foot. At first, I thought it was just weeds. The lake's always been full of them, slimy ropes that curl around your ankles. But then it wrapped tighter. I jerked upright, treading water, heart starting to race. Whatever it was slid higher, circling my calf. It was firm, like a hand, or a paw, or something else entirely. I kicked hard, twisting, but it clamped around both legs and yanked. The world went green and soundless. I thrashed, bubbles exploding from my mouth, eyes wide. I could see streaks of sunlight stabbing through the murk, but they felt miles away. Whatever held me didn't pull me straight down, it dragged me sideways, deeper into shadow. I clawed at the water, desperate to find the surface. It felt like forever, seconds stretched into an eternity of crushing, cold, and muffled heartbeat. And all the while, that grip crawled higher, curling around my thigh, brushing my hip, almost curious. Then, as suddenly as it started, it let go. I shot upward, broke the surface with a ragged scream, choking on air and lake water. I flailed until I found the shallows, crawling onto the muddy shore, sobbing so hard I nearly threw up. When I finally got control of myself, I checked my legs. No marks, no bruises, nothing. Just shaking limbs and lungs that burned like fire. I haven't been back since. But sometimes, when I close my eyes at night, I still feel it. That slow, deliberate tightening around my legs. The way it pulled me not just down, but away, into some hidden hollow beneath the lake. And I wonder if it wanted to hurt me. Why didn't it? Why did it let go? What was it looking for? Or worse, what if it's just waiting, a little deeper this time, patient as the years roll by, for me to be foolish enough to come back? It was almost 3 years before I even talked about it. Not until my sister and I were catching up over dinner one rainy night. We'd both had a couple glasses of wine, that soft, warm looseness spreading through us. Somehow, we started reminiscing about the lake, how we'd raced to the dock, how Dad used to scoop us up and throw us shrieking into the water. I thought I could just nod along, smile, let it pass. But then she went quiet. Her eyes flicked down to her plate. "Do you ever think about what might be in there?" My stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" She pushed her fork through her pasta, not looking at me. "When I was there last summer, I went for a swim, alone. Something wrapped around my ankle, tight, like it wanted me." She shivered, hugging herself. It let go, but it felt wrong, like it was trying to decide if I was worth keeping. I didn't realize I was gripping the edge of the table until my knuckles ached. She finally looked up at me, eyes wide. "I thought I was crazy. I never told anyone. But now seeing your face, you felt it too, didn't you?" I couldn't answer. Because the truth is, every time I close my eyes, I still feel it. those ghostly hands or claws or whatever they were tightening, testing, almost measuring me. Now, I wonder how many others it's touched. How many times it's reached out from that dark, silent water, deciding who stays and who gets to leave. And how long before it finally finds someone it doesn't want to let go. It was actually my sister who pushed to go back, believe it or not. She got obsessed for a while reading old local newspapers online, trying to find something, anything that might explain what we felt. One day she texted me a grainy black and white photo from 1974. Dock at Mason's Lake, 2 teen boys vanished, no traces found. So that summer, we drove back together. Neither of us planned to swim, we just wanted to see it, maybe prove to ourselves it was just a lake, that we'd let our imaginations twist a few harmless weeds into nightmares. But at the little bait shack near the entrance, we ran into him. An old man with a sun-leathered face and a Red Sox cap so faded it was nearly white. He was mending a net by the shack's side wall, whistling low. My sister struck up a conversation, and pretty soon she was telling him all about our childhood summers there, the weird feeling we'd both had. He didn't laugh, didn't roll his eyes or tell us we were city kids spooking ourselves. He just went quiet, staring out toward the water. Finally, he said, voice rough, like gravel, "I saw it, back in '77. Thought it was a log at first, drifting low under the dock. Then it moved, turned on itself, had something like limbs but not right, too many joints, like a pile of eels knotted up." He rubbed his jaw, eyes narrowing. "Heard of people getting pulled under. Most come up sputtering, scared half to death. But not all of them." I swallowed hard. "Not all?" He didn't answer, just looked at me with this tired, knowing look that sank right into my bones. Then he gathered his net and went inside, leaving us standing there with our skin crawling. On the drive home, my sister barely spoke. I think we both realized at the same moment it wasn't just our lake anymore. Maybe it never was. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder how many families stood on that same shore over the decades, smiling for pictures, teaching their kids to swim, never knowing what was waiting just out of sight below the surface. And how many more people it's tested, wrapping around them in the dark, deciding whether they'd get to tell their story, or whether they'd just vanish, leaving only ripples behind. The 14th of March. I don't even know why I'm writing this down. Maybe I hope that getting it out will make it smaller, somehow. It's been almost a year since the break-in, since those 2 men kicked my door in at 3 a.m. I still hear it, that crash. The wood splintering. I shot out of bed so fast I swear my feet didn't touch the ground. They were on me before I could even think. They tied me up. Rough rope around my wrists, ankles, so tight my hands went numb. I remember the scratch of the fibers digging into my skin, burning every time I flinched. I can still see the little scabs that formed after, the angry pink rings that took weeks to fade. Even now, if I run my fingers over the inside of my wrists, I swear I feel ghostly ridges. They took what they wanted: money, jewelry, my sense of safety. They never even said much, just barked short, cold orders. Don't move, don't look up. I lay there on the floor for what felt like hours after they left, tied up and shaking so badly I thought my heart would stop. People keep telling me how lucky I am. Lucky they didn't hurt me worse. Lucky it wasn't violent in other ways. They look at me like I'm supposed to breathe a sigh of relief, smile, go back to my life. But I can't. I flinch every time the floor creaks. I sleep with the lights on, and even then, sleep is a stranger. The door locks don't matter. I've replaced them twice, added a bar. I still lie awake some nights, waiting to hear that crash again. Why is it on me to be okay with this? Why am I expected to just move on, to shrug and say, well, it could have been worse, like that makes it acceptable? It wasn't okay. It'll never be okay. And sometimes I wonder if I'll ever get to feel normal again. Because the worst part is, deep down, I don't think I will. I've never believed in ghosts. I've always been the kind of person who rolls their eyes at haunted house tours and turns off horror movies halfway through, bored. So when my new route to work started taking me right past St. Catherine's Cemetery, I didn't give it a second thought. It was old, with crumbling headstones and iron fences twisted by rust, but to me it was just another patch of grass and history. The first time I cut through was in early spring, a shortcut home on foot after my car broke down. I remember it was damp, smelled like wet earth and moss. I slept fine that night. But the next night, I woke up around 2 a.m. completely paralyzed. I've heard of sleep paralysis before I knew the basic explanation. Your brain wakes up, but your body doesn't. Some glitch in the system. Still, knowing that didn't help much when I opened my eyes and couldn't move, couldn't even twitch a finger. It felt like something was sitting on my chest, heavy and cold, pressing the air out of me. I couldn't scream, couldn't even take a full breath. There was nothing there. Just my dark room, the moonlight crawling across the floor. Eventually, it faded. My body jerked like it had been unplugged from something, and I sucked in air so fast I nearly gagged. The next morning, I brushed it off. Stress. Maybe I'd had a bad dream that bled into waking. A few months passed. I avoided the cemetery, but not because I was scared. It was just out of my way most days. Then one summer evening, I was running late, cut through the headstones again without thinking. That night, it happened again. I woke up pinned to the mattress, my heart hammering so hard I thought it would burst. I tried to whisper, to call out to no one, but my lips wouldn't part. I could have sworn the air smelled like damp soil, like fresh graves. When it released me, I sat up gasping, drenched in sweat. I still didn't believe it was anything paranormal. 2 times didn't make a curse. It made a coincidence. So in October, after grabbing a few drinks with coworkers, I walked that way home again. The cemetery looked beautiful under the street lamps, orange leaves scattered like confetti over the graves. I even stopped at one point to read an old, worn name on a tilted stone. I remember thinking, see? Nothing, just stone and dirt. That night was the worst of all. I woke up with that same crushing weight on my chest, but this time my eyes darted immediately to the corner of the ceiling, because something was there. A shape dark, wrong, almost spider-like, with joints that bent the wrong way. Its eyes were 2 glints, catching the faint glow from my clock. It didn't move at first, just hung there, almost curious, watching me. Then it lunged. I felt hands, bony and icy, wrap around my throat. My legs kicked up off the bed, not because it was lifting me. I think I was thrashing so hard trying to get away that my own muscles did it. But I couldn't move my arms, couldn't pry it off. The pressure on my neck was so intense I thought something would crack. And then it was over. I fell back onto the mattress, sucking air, sobbing. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. In the morning, there were faint bruises under my jaw. Not finger-shaped, exactly, more like smudges, shadows of pressure. I've told myself 100 times it was just the aftershock of the experience. Maybe I dug my own nails into my neck somehow. Maybe I bruised just from straining. But I haven't walked through that cemetery again. I take the long way now, even if it means being late, even if it means I'm soaked in rain by the time I get home. Because I'm not sure what would happen if I attempted it a 4th time. And for the first time in my life, I think there are some places we're simply not meant to disturb. I've always been a vivid dreamer. Even as a kid, my nights were filled with strange, colorful scenes, sometimes fun, sometimes bizarre, but nothing more. Then around high school, I started noticing something weird. I dreamt about sitting in chemistry class, the teacher handing back tests, and me seeing the exact question word for word that would show up on a quiz 2 weeks later. I brushed it off. Déjà vu. Lucky guess. But it kept happening. In college, I dreamed one night about walking past a silver sedan on the side of the highway, its rear tire shredded, driver on the phone. The next day, driving home, there it was. Same car, same spot, same panicked guy waving for help. Little things like that. Predictable, almost silly. I didn't complain, it was like a harmless party trick. Then, about 8 months ago, the dreams started changing. They got shorter, sharper, a few seconds long. I'd see flashes of accidents, a cyclist hit by a delivery van, a building with black smoke pouring from the windows. At first, they felt random. Then they started happening in real life, sometimes the next day, sometimes a week later, always exactly as I saw. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe these were common occurrences, bound to overlap with something my subconscious imagined. But each time it was too perfect. Same people, same clothes, same expressions of panic. Now, for the past 3 months, it's gotten so much worse. My dreams stretch on for hours, detailed and nightmarish. I wander through empty streets, littered with scorched paper and twisted metal. I see cars abandoned, doors flung open, a distant orange glow on the horizon, rising like a sun that shouldn't be there. Sometimes I come across bodies, not gruesome, just still. A child stuffed bear lying nearby, a dog whining next to someone who doesn't move. In the dreams, there's no sound except the wind, no sirens, no voices, just me alone, searching for someone, anyone who might explain how it all ended. I've started keeping journals, trying to spot patterns, hoping to find something to prove these are just dreams, but every morning the notes match perfectly with what I remember. No fuzzy details, no comforting gaps. Last night was the worst yet. I stood on an overpass, looking down at a highway jammed with cars. People had gotten out, left their doors open like they were trying to flee on foot. Far off in the distance, I saw a cloud. Not storm clouds, these were thick, dark, billowing upward in a column. As I watched, it rolled outward like a slow wave. When it hit, the air seemed to ripple. I felt heat on my face, heard a low thunder that rattled my bones. Then I woke up, gasping, my bedsheets soaked with sweat. Now I can't focus at work. I flinch when a car backfires, when someone drops a metal tray. I keep scanning the news, expecting to see the first cracks in reality, the first sign my dreams are starting to spill over again. My friends laugh it off. They think it's stress, that I need to unplug. Who doesn't dream about the end of the world these days, they say. But they don't know what it's like to have your dreams come true, over and over, until you stop doubting that they're warnings. This morning I woke up with my ears still ringing, the smell of burning metal stuck in my nose. I walked outside just to stand under the blue sky, to listen to birds and cars and kids playing normal sounds that feel fragile now. I don't know when it will happen. Maybe tomorrow, maybe years from now. But I've stopped asking if, and I've started counting down, even if I don't know the number yet. I've been working as a security driver for about 6 years now. Mostly it's boring. Ferrying corporate executives from meetings to airports, or running armored vans to discreet bank branches. But 3 months ago, my company landed a private contract with a real estate firm. They needed someone to drive through a particular neighborhood twice daily, at irregular hours, and log observations. I was told it was routine, a deterrent, showing a visible security presence in a place they were planning to buy up and redevelop. No big deal. I've driven through worse parts of the city, or so I thought. The first week was quiet. I cruised through cracked streets, lined with sagging homes and overgrown lots. It was almost eerily still, except for stray cats darting under porches. But by the second week, I noticed cars that seemed to show up only when I was on shift. Old sedans parked at corners, engines idling, windows tinted. If I slowed down, they'd roll away at a crawl. If I stopped completely, they'd vanish down a side street. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe locals being cautious. Then came the warnings. One morning I found a note under my wiper blade. "You don't belong here." Nothing else, blocky letters, felt tip marker. A couple days later, my passenger side mirror was shattered, glass scattered on the curb. Still, my dispatcher insisted I keep making the rounds. Presence is key. Just stay in the vehicle. Easy advice when you're not the one out here. Things escalated last week. I was idling by a boarded-up liquor store, tapping notes into my tablet, when 3 guys appeared from an alley. They didn't yell or make a scene, just walked slowly around my car, trailing their fingers along the hood, peering inside. One of them bent down and looked directly into my window. His eyes were cold, empty, like he was already picturing something far worse. Then he smiled, tapped the glass twice with his knuckle, and they all walked off. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined them waiting outside my apartment following me home. Still, I went back the next day. Part of the job, I thought. I was halfway through my loop when I realized my rear view was filled with headlights, an old pickup, creeping just a little too close. I took 3 random turns, but it stayed right behind me. Finally, I pulled onto a busy thoroughfare, hoping traffic would lose them. When I checked again, they were gone. But back at my lot, tucked under the wiper, was another note. "This is your last lap." No one should have known where I parked. I reported everything to my supervisor. He promised to look into it, said he'd file a police report. But I could tell from his voice he was mostly concerned with liability, not me. I still had 2 shifts left on that contract. I took them. Foolish pride, I guess. On my final run, I felt watched from the moment I crossed into the neighborhood. I saw shapes behind curtains, figures standing just beyond porch lights. Halfway down my route, a different car pulled out behind me, a black sedan. Dented doors, no plates. It stayed a full block back, never speeding up, never slowing, just there. At one intersection, it idled across from me. The driver lowered his window. I couldn't see his face, just the silhouette of someone staring. When the light turned green, he stayed put, watching. I finished that shift with my heart in my throat. Since then, I've taken jobs in nicer areas, office parks, hotels, gated communities. But sometimes I still catch glimpses of that black sedan in my mirrors, or spot someone who looks familiar in a store aisle, gone when I turn back. I don't know if it's paranoia or something else. What I do know is that neighborhood isn't being redeveloped anytime soon. The real estate firm quietly pulled out. Some places don't want to change, and there are people who'll make sure it stays that way no matter who comes driving through.